our speaker today. We have an incredible speaker. Muni is an executive career coach and CEO of DreamPath. Muni specializes in helping senior professionals land roles in the 150 to 500K range and has successfully coached over 300 professionals into jobs across North America. Previously, he was a global talent acquisition lead at Applyboard, where he played a key role in scaling the company from 300 to over 1,000 employees. His expertise in personal branding and career development makes him a trusted advisor for career transitions. He's helped me with my career transition, and I trust him wholeheartedly. And if you have any questions during the session, please drop them in the chat and Muni will do his best to answer them. And with that, over to you, Muni.
You're too kind, Neha. You're way too kind. And that new heart, I haven't used Zoom in a while. I'm more of a Google Meets guy, so if we're at ends, we're at ends. But that heart reaction was pretty crazy. I didn't expect it to go that intense. But excited to be here. Great to have everybody. Tate, thank you for joining us on camera, my man. Good to see you. Again, for those of you, again, don't be shy. If you're able to go on camera and you're not in a position where you're compromised, we encourage you to join us on camera as well. So very excited to be here. Thank you, Neha, for first and foremost inviting me, for the gracious intro there. We have people rolling in, which is really exciting. Now, guys, as you can probably tell, I'm very casual in my conversation style. I'm not like a corporate like presentation guy or like I have some slides we'll go through just to collect my thoughts, but my conversation style is very, very relaxed here. Rick, good to see you on camera, man. Thanks for joining us. So y'all, my name is Muni. Good to have you here. Just to get a lay of the land here, I'd love to, again, through either the chat or Zoom reactions, I'm going to ask a few questions. I just want to get a lay of the land of where people are at in their careers here. So just want to start off by, let's go with years of experience. 5 years of experience or less. Put your hand up. Okay, Neha. Okay, Dom. Cool. Okay, how about between 5 and 8? Put your hand up if you're in that category. Okay, so Tate's up there. All right, and anybody here with over 10 years of experience? Okay, so we got Rick, we got Andres.
I messed up. I think you asked for 5 or more earlier, and
Oh no, I meant 5 or less. Yeah, 5 or less. I was like, man, I don't know if that's true, but I'm not going to correct you here. So okay, awesome. Okay, so we got a pretty even split of where people are at over here. Okay, now by way of chat, if you guys could, but 10 plus. Okay, cool. Thanks so much for that, Heather. Okay, now through chat, if you guys could drop what is the number one thing you're looking to get out of today's session. I'll give you guys a few seconds here. Just drop it in chat in one sentence. What are you looking forward to getting out of this session today the most? Okay. Andres is saying grow my network. Always a big one. Network is always a big one that comes up. Okay, Neha, talking about how to structure, thinking about career progression in the long term. Cool. Yep. Okay, Rick thumbed up Andres' comments. So okay, cool. So again, keep throwing them in there as we go along here, but just a general idea. Dom is saying tips and tricks on how to define my niche, move forward with that progression. Okay, cool. Yeah, so again, very much as the event. Oh, here we go. More than 5, less than 8, and looking for a long-term career path. Cool. How to land a higher paying role. Okay. So we got a good, I think a good journey of expectations here. I think just from understanding what types of career paths to get into, how to define those niche, to knowing how to progress your career into ultimately landing better and higher paying roles. How others approach their career growth. Okay, awesome. Okay, so this is some really good stuff. Getting a lot of thumbs up on people wanting to get higher paying roles. So I mean, more money, less problems, in my opinion. So this is all good stuff. Okay, so as the title of this whole thing suggests, I'm actually share my screen. We'll dive right in here. Yeah, here we go. All right, y'all, listen, don't judge my design skills. I'm not a designer. All right, so with whatever you see, have mercy on me. Okay, so let's get into this. Nope, let's share. Gotcha. Okay, cool. Let's get into this. So, um, why even give me the time of day? So Neha gave a nice little description and bio about kind of what I do. And when she asked me for the bio, I tried to not include anything that would, go into the territory of boasting. It's really just to highlight what is it that I bring here that, gives me a little bit of weightage and being able to, help you guys out today. And so what really, I think a big part of that bio is when I worked with a high growth tech company here. So I'm based in Canada, London, Ontario. We do have a London, so not the UK. When I was working with a high growth tech company, I had the privilege of helping that company scale from 300 to 1,000. Now, the reason this is important to mention is because during that journey, I had seen that company through its Series A, B, and C, and a big part of that growth was actually within our R&D and product teams, right? So I had a lot of face time and opportunity to work with and hire designers, UX UI researchers, product managers, the whole nine yards of being able to scale the product org. So I'm going to be bringing the things that I've learned along the way of helping scale those teams and growing them for companies as part of the learning lessons that we're going to get into today. All right. And since I've moved on from a corporate career in talent acquisition, getting into now an executive career, career coaching, career path. It's a mouthful to say. But I've had a chance to work with a lot of folks within the product side of things. And so getting to see what works and what doesn't work, what are people doing to progress their career process, to find their niche, identify where they're going. Okay. So the first step that we want to talk about, and I think this is where a lot of people are getting into, is really identifying how do you start mapping out your career. And what my attempt today here is to help you leverage as much of your design experience into the way you do this in your career. Right. I'm a big believer that the types of skills that you use in your day-to-day work can be and should be applied in the way you actually build your career. Right. Like a lot of people think it's like two different skill sets. Some skills are different, but there's a lot of things that carry over. For example, my career started in sales and marketing, specifically within tech sales. I use a lot of those sales experiences that I had gained over the years to help me build up my actual career path, right? And being able to job search and network and then identify opportunities. And so my goal is to help you carry as much of your design practices that you do in your day-to-day career over into the way you're building out the progression of your career in your day-to-day job search. Okay. So I'm just saying, I'm here. The slide starts off by talking about networking, but it's much more than that. When we want to identify where we want to go next in our careers, identifying that target role is really important. Okay. And when we look at what a target role is, there's up to 5 components that I typically look at, right? One is what's going to use your experiences in the best mix possible, right? If you were to take all the experiences that you've accumulated throughout the course of your career. Actually, I'll go back a slide here just so I don't distract you too much with the words on the other slide, which we'll get into in just a second. But when you're looking at that target role, first and foremost, what is going to be the best use of your experiences? Number one. Number two, what type of company or industry is going to be the best use of your experiences? So one is more role focused, the first one. The second one is more company industry focused. The third one, what corporate environment can you see yourself thriving in, right? So understanding the corporate culture, the company culture that you're getting into is really important to help you understand where you want to take your career next. Number 4 is what type of role is going to help you meet your compensation and salary expectations. And then the 5th one, which is something that most people underlook, which is where is the demand in the market for my type of skill set, right? So role type, company type / industry, culture, compensation, and then demand. All of these things are really, really important. Now, in today's world, careers are so diverse. It's insane, right? Like can go into so many different directions. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, careers had a very defined path. Like you get into, role A, then that you have to get into role B after that, then role C, then role 3. And so it just becomes a very standardized track for how you start your career, how you get promoted, and how you eventually end your career. But now in 2025, I'm still in 2024's mindset. Now we have so many more pathways and so many more opportunities for where things can go. And roles just keep evolving, right? And roles keep evolving because now we have a higher variety of companies and technology stacks have changed drastically, which changes the nature of how roles even happen, right? I'm sure a lot of you have been playing with AI recently and just how it's been progressing, design best practices, how people are doing design in their day-to-day. So how do we even begin to start mapping out where to go next, right? And this is where this slide comes in. right? I'm a huge believer in not reinventing the wheel, right? Because one thing you can do is just sit down and Google your way or Chat GPT your way to being able to identify some roles. But here's the thing with just seeing information online for the first time. It's just that it's just information. You haven't experienced it. You don't know what that type of information looks like in practicality. Okay. So this is where now we can start to use some of your design principles in thinking about the way you map out your career, right? So number one here, right, mapping your career path like a user journey. Okay. Think about where do you want to see things long term, right? In the same way that you think about a user journey in terms of like, okay, how, what's the problem that you'd be solving? What's the product supposed to do? Where do you eventually want the user of the product to go? And you start to map that out. Do the same thing with your career. Understand where you started, understand where you are now, and then understand based on the type of life that you want to build, where do you want to take your career long term? And then from there, start mapping out the journey to get you there. Okay. Then number two, this is probably one of the most important parts, is conducting informational interviews or reaching out to others who are in your field, but one or two steps ahead. All right. Let's say you are a UX researcher right now. Okay. Or you are a product designer and your long-term career path, you're like, you know what, I eventually want to manage and be at the top of the org. I want to be the VP of product, or I want to be the VP of design, right? Or I want to be a chief design officer, or like, whatever, however, high that goes, right? And then you've mapped out your career path. It was like, okay, cool, I'm a product designer now. The next step for me would need to be a product design lead. I need to start managing a team. So once you've identified that as the next part of your journey, go out and talk to people who are like that, right? And I'm not saying just people in your own network. If you find folks in your own network, great. But you will find that there's more people for you to network with outside of your network than within your network. And again, if time allows, we can even do a live walkthrough on how you can use LinkedIn to identify these individuals for these informational interviews, right? Because these people have gone through the path, right? You want to identify people who've been in the role that you have been in, right? And they're now currently doing the role that you're looking to get into, right? These criteria are very important. And because of LinkedIn and how powerful it is, you can even niche that down to identifying people who fit the criteria of done the role that you're currently in, doing the role you want to get into, and then even specify like, hey, I want them to be in this type of company or this type of industry, or I want them to be from the same alma mater as me from an education perspective. You can get really refined, right? And once you've identified them, reach out to these individuals and set up these informational interviews, right? Let them know that, hey, listen, you are in the dream career path that I'm looking to get into. I would love to learn how you did it, right? The amount of lessons that you will learn from these individuals is insane, and it will save you so much time. They will let you know what did it take for them to go from the role that you're in to the role that they're in, right? And they'll share the lessons, the tools, the people, the processes that got them there, right? And number three, and again, you get the fact that we're all here today shows that everybody's in number three, right? Joining these UX communities to get surrounded by these individuals, right? One of the fastest ways to build up that sense of camaraderie or find the right people to connect with is to do that. So this is how you map out your career. Right? A lot of people, yeah, sure, there's an element of it being a science, but there's also an element of it being an art form, right? There's no one specific way of doing it. And I'll go out on a stretch to say that almost everybody here has a different goal for their career. And the reason I can say that confidently is because everybody here has a different goal for their life. Like when you're thinking about how you're mapping out your career, what a lot of people fail to realize is they separate career and life, right? And I'm going to get philosophical at some points in this conversation because it's really important. People will separate the career and life. They think, well, okay, you know what? My career goals should be completely separate from whatever I do outside of work, right? And I'm not saying that, hey, you know what? Your work needs to become your life, because I don't agree with that, right? We work to live, not live to work. But you need to understand what types of personal life goals do you want to achieve, whether they're financial, whether they're family, whether they're community, whether they're spiritual, whatever those goals are for you that you want to achieve. Like, what would be the ultimate goal that when you're on your deathbed, right, you'd be like, yeah, you know what? That was a life well lived. Understanding that ultimate goal will help you understand what type of career you want to have. For example, when people go through this exercise, when I coach clients, and then we go through this exercise of, hey, where do you want your life to go, right? A lot of folks, so a very common thing is like, you know what, I want to have financial freedom, I want to have time freedom, and you know what, I really want to have a lot of impact and do my own thing. And so it's like, okay, cool. So you're in a corporate role right now, but based on this ultimate goal, it makes sense that eventually you go down the entrepreneurial path and start your own thing, whether it's a design agency, a product agency, whatever it might be, and you get to run your own show so that you can get to that level of financial and time freedom. Some folks do not want that. They're like, you know what? I just want a really comfortable life. I want to work through the corporate life, get my pension, retire, and just live a very relaxed, chill life. It's like, cool, that's amazing, right? So then going down that path will probably be a bit more corporate. Some people that are like, you know what? I don't want the hassle of a really high senior role. I don't want to be working 100 hours a week, even if I'm making multi six figures. This is like, okay, great. So you may not want to get into like an executive role, but you may want to get to a very senior principal, individual contributor type of role where you're making lots of money, but you don't have the responsibility of having to manage org strategies and people. Okay. So this is important, right? It's philosophical, but you need to get in touch with that personal side of where you want to take things in your life so that your career can help you achieve that. This is where career fulfillment even comes from. Your career is only fulfilling if it helps you achieve your life goals, right? That's where that career fulfillment comes in. And again, as I mentioned, these statements, they're not like written in stone. These are my thoughts. These are my musings that I've gained over the years and things that I want to share. You can fully disagree with what I'm saying. And if you do, I'd love to hear a different perspective here. Okay, next. Once you've identified where you're going, right, and have an idea, you've talked to people, you've done those informational interviews, start prototyping, right? And the fact that y'all are in a design career of some sort gives you a lot of flexibility to prototype your career. This, which is really interesting, right? What I mean by this is test out different paths that you're trying to get into, right? Like whether you're making a transition from one type of design career to another, whether you're making a transition from one level of design to another, freelance it. Like try it out, right? Whether you freelance it, whether you want to be fractional hire or contract work, right? Go out, find companies or gigs where you can try these different things out, right? Maybe there is a company on again like freelance.com, and they're looking for somebody to manage a group of designers. You might go in and put in your bid. You're like, you know what? It's a 2 or 3 month contract. I'll manage a group of designers and go ahead and do that, right? Or again, you don't even have to go through these formal networks. You can even reach out to startups. One of my favorite ways to prototype careers is going to startups, very, very young, early stage startups that are open to, working with different people. As long as you're okay with it potentially just being a volunteer opportunity, but it lets you actually build up that practical experience, startups can be a very powerful way for you to prototype your career. Okay. Another way of doing it, which is a lot more common, is things like side projects, hackathons, things of that nature, right? Where you kind of go out and you have your own idea, your own musings, and then you create your own product, you create your own project around some sort of thing, and you build up that. But prototyping your career allows you to get a taste of what it's going to be like before you actually commit to it, right? Because once you start committing to it, you get into the job search for it, you start landing jobs within it, start making a salary from it. Like you start getting in a little bit deeper, and everything is reversible for the most part. Even if you get into it and you're like, you know what, this wasn't the right move, you can always bounce back. There's no problem, but you can save yourself a lot of time and heartache and disappointment later on by prototyping it ahead of time. Okay. Before I get into the next part, which starts getting into the practical aspects of like, okay, cool. Once you've identified where you're going, and you have an idea of the type of career path you want to evolve into, the next part is going to get into the more practical technicalities of like, okay, cool. You know where you're going. How do you actually get there now? I'll take a pause here. How are we doing on pace so far? Am I speaking all right? Am I speaking too fast, too slow? Is things making sense? Are there any questions I can answer here at this point? Okay. Timing is great. Appreciate it, Dom. Yeah, I'm seeing your comment too. I mentioned like feeling uncomfortable reaching out to senior people on LinkedIn, but I've learned to push through that discomfort and awkwardness. And we're going to talk about that because that's a roadblock for many folks. But Billy, appreciate it, man. Thanks for the thumbs up on that. Heather, I just saw that you're from Toronto, so yeah, I got that Canadian accent. You never realize you have a Canadian accent until you go down to America, and then people are like, "Oh, you're Canadian, aren't you?" I was like, "How'd you know?" They're like, "Your accent." I'm like, "What? That's a thing. There's accents." So cool stuff. Cool stuff. Okay, awesome. So we'll keep on rolling here. And we'll get into all the practical stuff. Again, my goal is that you guys walk away with really practical things you can implement. I don't like to stay in the theoretical, philosophical cloud. I like to bring it down and be like, okay, cool, here's things you can implement. But just to wrap up the aspect of designing that next career path, People will be your path. Okay. Talk to people, right? Like I think in today's technological world where we have access to everything at our fingertips, we like to DIY everything. We like to, like, you know what, let me go and do my own research, my own information, which is a necessary part of the process because that's going to point you in the direction of what people you should talk to. And it may sound oversimplified, but it's really that simple, right? Once you have an idea of where you potentially want to go and talk to people, right? Again, I have mentorship and coaching here, which is like another kind of avenue. You know, the fact that you guys are in this community, they have access to mentors, you have access to coaches who can help you is a great place to start. But also find specific people who are where you want to go, right? And it can be very uncomfortable at the beginning. I trust me, I've been there. I've overcome it. And Neha, you know, as she mentioned, right? Like, you know, it caused her discomfort, but she's pushing through that. We're only uncomfortable with networking. We'll talk more a little bit about that. Or reaching out to people that we've never talked to because we fear the unknown. We don't know these people. We don't know how they're going to react to us reaching out. We don't know what they're going to say to our questions. We don't know what they're going to think we're dumb for asking these questions. But I promise you, 99% of the people out there are generally very helpful if they do respond. And will be very happy to help you because they themselves were in those positions, right? So people will be your path and they will save you a lot of pain, right? Cool. Now let's get into actually how do we start getting you out there, okay? Once you've identified where you want to go, you've spoken to people, you've prototyped it, you have a very strong feeling, you know what, this is the path I want to go down into. This is where we want to start getting into your personal brand, okay? I'm not asking y'all to become influencers. This is not what building a personal brand means. I'm not saying take a million selfies, start posting, start getting out there, get brand sponsorship. If you want to do that, great. But building a personal brand, and the best way I can even define a personal brand for you is what do people say about you when you're not in the room? That's what it is, right? And it doesn't have to be a physical room. It could just be even the virtual room. When people come across your LinkedIn profile and they see it, what are they saying about you? When they come across your portfolio or your work, what are they saying about you? All of that is your personal brand, right? Your personal brand is your representative online. Okay. So the reason having this personal brand is extremely important. And I don't want to just say extremely important for the sake of it, like you should do it, but why it will benefit you. Why will a personal brand benefit you? I think that's a more appropriate question. A personal brand works for you even when you're not there. Okay. So when my team and I are coaching clients and we're helping them build out their personal brand, right? We're setting it up in such a way where they start to get asked by recruiters out of the blue for job opportunities. People start to reach out to them and asking them about certain questions. They start to follow their content or their profile just because they find their work to be very interesting. That's the power of the personal brand. It's working for you, whether you're asleep, whether you're working, whether you're investing into it actively, whether you're not. It's extremely powerful. Now, when it comes to building a personal brand, you want to define what that design niche is for you. Like, what do you want to be known for? Okay, this is going to be an important one. What do you want to be known for? And again, whether you're a generalist, a specialist, whether you like to focus on specific types of products, right? Maybe you exclusively like to focus on mobile product design. Maybe you like to focus on, hardware product design, web product design, platform product design, whatever it might be. Figure out what that specialty is, right? You don't have to go too specific, but figure out what you want to be known for. Okay. And then once you've identified that, this is where you can start building out your presence. Now, LinkedIn is a very common place, and I highly recommend using LinkedIn as a starting spot because it's just going to make your life a lot easier. Primarily because LinkedIn will supply you the network and the community that will help push your personal brand forward and allow you to actually see the ROI of your personal brand. So LinkedIn is a great place to start in terms of setting up your personal brand. That's a whole other conversation in terms of how to structure your LinkedIn profile, what to put on it, what to say on it. There's a lot of resources out there, but structuring a personal brand on LinkedIn means that your profile attracts people to it. And when people come to your profile, they're able to engage with it, right? Whether it's reading your about section, whether it's reading your experiences, whether you have your portfolio listed on there and they click on it and start to view that, right? Give people a reason to come to your profile and to want to engage with your profile. Okay. Cool. Let's move on from here. But this is the benefit of a personal brand. Okay. Now, when it comes to actually the growth of your career and the actual job search part itself, because everything we've done is the prerequisite before you would even start a new job search. Okay. Identifying the role, making sure you talk to people about the role, and then making sure you have a strong personal brand. The next part here is the actual job search itself. Specifically, for your type of career path, a portfolio is extremely important. Okay. And it's very interesting how many folks I run into who are in a design career of some sort, and they don't have a portfolio, right? Because this is like this is your work, right? And again, this is very, I don't want to say very specific, but this is unique to a design career. So, software development could be another one, but they typically get into things like GitHubs and having leak code being presented and shown. But for designers, this is very unique to you guys, right? Making sure you have a design portfolio. Yeah, that's a great question. How many people here have a portfolio? Let's get a raise of hands. How many people here have a portfolio or even a portfolio in progress? Okay, so we're getting some hands up. Okay, cool, awesome, awesome. Okay, cool. So a number of people have a portfolio. Nice, Bensari. Thanks for sharing that. I'm gonna click it open just so I can visit it. Oh, didn't mean to put you on the spot. Let me actually go back to this. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll check it out after. But yeah, the portfolio is extremely important. Now, when it comes to the portfolio, here's the important thing, right? A lot of folks do not have a portfolio, and the ones that do have a portfolio, I see a good portion of them focusing on outcomes. Where it's like, hey, check out what I designed. Hey, check out what I made. Hey, look at this. Here's the final product. Looks really amazing, nice and flashy. But what makes a really strong portfolio is showcasing the process that got you to that outcome, right? So when you show the outcome, whatever it might be, whether it's like a final product design or how you improve the UX workflow for users, show the process, right? Show them how you thought about it. Highlight, here's what the problem was. Here's what I thought about. Here's how I thought about it. Here are the different steps that I took, the different things that I did. And what I found in some of the best portfolios is people actually show the scribbles, right? They show, the pen and paper. We'll take a picture of it and show like, hey, here are some of the initial mock-ups that I did. They'll show their wireframing. They'll show like the work in progress. They show that. And then they show the final product at the very end, right? Because think about it this way. You're showing a live case study of what you've done. When you get to the actual interview process, typically for this type of field, case studies or live design reviews usually come up, right? So if you think about and start implementing that within your portfolio, even before you begin your job search, the process of going through a case study or a live design walkthrough in the actual interview becomes a much easier task because you've already thought through this, right? People, they want to see your outcomes, but what makes you more hireable is when they can see how did you get there, because the thought process is what's transferable to new jobs into new companies, right? Outcomes are very similar. A lot of companies want very usable products. A lot of companies want processes that are easy for their users to follow. A lot of companies want really nicely designed tools, right? But they want to know, how did you get there, so that they can map that out to the way they would like you to get there within their company. Okay. And again, it goes without saying, metrics and impact is really, really important, right? And we'll talk a little bit more about that, especially when you get into things like the resume. But this applies a lot more so to the portfolio. But the main takeaway here, a lot of you mentioned you have a portfolio, but again, really stress on showcasing the process, right? If you haven't highlighted an in-depth process, right, go back and do so, right? It can be a little bit lengthier, it can be a little bit longer, because those who care about your profile will take the time to read this and go through it. Okay, cool. Now let's talk about optimizing your resume here. Okay. Um, Keywords is something most people know about. Okay, I'm not going to stress too much about that. The keywords aspect of making sure you're using the right types of keywords that are present in most of your job descriptions is going to be important. But the thing I want to focus on the most here is really highlighting and focusing on having an outcome focused or an achievement focused resume. Okay. What most people have in their resumes is something called a task focused or experience focused resume, which just states what they did. So, for example, created wireframes for created wireframes for a analytics dashboard. Okay, great. I know what you did, but as a hiring decision maker, that doesn't give me a whole lot to work with, right? Something that's more achievement or outcome focused might sound a little bit more something like this, where it's like, when faced with the opportunity to upgrade the look and feel of our dashboard or analytics tool, I generated 100 plus wireframes within 2 months, and tested with a focus group of 10 customers, resulting in the creation of a 2.0 analytics dashboard within a 6 month sprint, resulting in again, insert some kind of quantified outcomes, such as resulting in an increase in user adoption by 20%, right? Or reducing user onboarding time from 1 week down to a couple hours, right? That's how you want it to sound. You don't want to just talk about, hey, like, here are the things that I did, but here's also what I achieved, and here's how I achieved it. So you could almost think about each of your resume experience points as a mini case study, as a mini portfolio, right? That honestly is the number one thing I want to stress on, and that's the only thing I'm going to stress on when it comes to this section of our conversation today, because things like optimizing a resume, keywords, right? People, for the most part, it's pretty common knowledge, and there are tools out there to help you identify keywords, know where to insert those keywords. But what a lot of tools don't really focus on is that achievement aspect, right? Really make sure you think about each of your bullet points in your resume and ensure that each one is outcome focused, that each one is highlighting a quantified achievement, right? That will propel your resume away from other candidates more than you'll ever know. Okay. This is the big one, right? Now that once you've kind of set up your profile, now you're looking at companies to work with, put on that design hat, put on that UX researcher hat, put on that UI hat when you're researching companies. Okay. You want to make sure you're researching and getting yourself into a company that you can be proud of working in, and a company that you can see yourself in for the next several of years, right? This is a really important decision. It's not about just getting a job. It's about getting a role within a company that will allow you to be as successful as possible instead of being as stressful as possible. Okay. So number one, analyze where they're at, analyze their design maturity. I threw UX in here, but again, it could be any type of design realm that you're in, but analyze where they're at in their process, right? You can easily do this by talking to other design members, right? Finding them on LinkedIn, reaching out to them, letting them know you want to ask them a few questions. Understand what the company's design maturity looks like. Do they have a process in place? Are they structured? Do they have a team? Are they just building up, or are they already established? Okay. Look for any red flags, right? Look for any red flags. Again, red flags can be like, are there unrealistic expectations that the leadership has of their design team, right? Is there a lack of leadership, right? Look at the way that, like, are their design practices up to par with what you would want to be playing in, or would you have to regress your design best practices in order for you to fit within the company, right? And so these can be, especially those two aspects, look into them. Aside from things like culture, you're looking up company culture, looking up the company's leadership, if they've raised money, etc. Look at these aspects as well, especially when it pertains to your career. Understand what their design teams and processes are. So many folks that I've coached and worked with will get, they talk to me about how they've gotten into companies that the money looked amazing, the company had a good brand, but once they get in, they're like, dude, it was an absolute mess. Like I had a client, she recently told me she had joined the team, right? It was a fast growing tech company, well known. She got a really awesome role, but she told me it was the worst career experience of her life because there was her leader had left the team. Everything got put onto her. There was no process, even though the team had existed for many years. They had a lack of process, and so she was just thrown into this tornado of a role and didn't know what to do. Right? Oh, sorry. I'm scrambling here. Okay, cool. So, cool. So we're here. So again, keep in mind these red flags. Really do the research. Understand what these companies are at, so you can save yourself the headache. Having a nice title and a nice compensation rarely compensates for a really poor role fit. Right? You will very quickly start thinking about leaving the role and being like, yeah, you know what? Some people are like that. Some people are like, you know what? Title's good, money's good. I don't care how crappy the job is. I'll just handle it, right? But I'd say that's a minority group of people. I think the majority of folks want to be fulfilled in the career. They want to feel like they're contributing. They want to feel like they're in a great team and a great culture. So keep an eye out for this. Research these companies. Put that design hat on. Think about it like it's a design project. Okay. Apply with a design mindset. Okay. So what do I mean by this? The power that y'all have here is really your ability to make things unique, right? When it comes to your applications, when it comes to the way you're reaching out and connecting with people, you have the ability to customize and make things very, very unique. But I think the other big thing as well, this applies to anybody who's in a career search, but especially for y'all, analyze the feedback that you're getting, right? As you're applying, as you're reaching out, as you're having interviews, I'll take all that feedback, that user feedback, that customer feedback, and write it down and start to look at where the trends are. Analyze that feedback, analyze the trends, and then iterate from there, right? What types of companies and what types of roles do you typically have high success rate in? What types of companies or roles do you typically have lower success rate in? When you get into an interview process, where are you typically dropping off in the process? What's the trend and the feedback that you're getting from interviews that don't move forward, right? Analyze and iterate the entire approach, right? Because if you just kind of, what most people do is they use a approach that's worked for them before, and because it worked for them before, they will keep using that even if it's not working now, because there's this belief that, hey, it worked for me before, it might just take a little bit longer, I'm just going to keep beating away and hopefully this works out, right? But every job search and every single different time is unique, right? How you job search now in 2025 is different than how you job search in your last role in 2022, right? And definitely different than how you job search back in 2018, right? The market keeps evolving, companies keep evolving, processes and hiring best practices keep evolving. So you need to evolve with it. And the best way to keep up, you don't need to know everything. You just need to look at the data that comes to you specifically, analyze it, iterate on it, and then keep moving forward. This is how you win in any job market, right? Easier said than done. Takes a lot of crazy hard work and patience and grit and staying power, but this is how you succeed in any type of job market, right? And again, you guys have the benefit of doing this every single day, right? So this is hardwired into your DNA, and you have the advantage of being able to analyze and iterate better than most people. Okay. I think this is the last slide. Yeah. Never stop learning. Okay. Again, it seems very basic, but keep upskilling, especially I think this has never become more prevalent than when AI just has really started taking off over the past year or so, right? Because AI is accelerating so quickly, right? The way technology is being used, the way roles are being conducted is changing very fast, very, very fast. And people are not keeping up with this, right? Not because they can't, it's because they're not, dedicating enough time to upskilling and updating their knowledge and skills frequently enough, right? Here I'm listing take courses and certifications. You don't have to, I'm not saying go on a certification manhunt and then start trying to load up on certifications and just stack them up. I'm not saying you have to do that, but develop the skills, understand how knowledge is evolving, understand where the trends are going, what tools are being used, and understand how is the technology impacting your role, right? A lot, there's people that are on the side of like, oh, these tools are becoming more advanced. They're doing a lot of my role now. Very soon, I'm going to be pushed out of the market. I won't have a job, and my life is over. There's one group of people. There's another group of people saying, listen, whether I like it or not, AI is going to be changing the game for everything. Technology is changing much more rapidly in these years, and it will continue to change even more rapidly. Instead of looking at that and saying, you know what, that's the enemy, that's going to kill me, I'm going to understand it, understand how to use it, and understand what I can do that this tool can't, right? Because at the end of the day, there needs to be people who will take that will manage these tools. There will always be a limit that AI cannot hit. Even though it's very advanced, there will always be a limit that AI cannot hit. And this is where you have to understand, how does your role evolve based on that. And the only way you can do that is if you stay on top of it, you keep understanding and learning what's coming out, what new technology is coming out, what new best practices are evolving, so that you can stay ahead of that curve. Right? Again, it takes work, but create a dedicated space of time, whether it's once a week, maybe you spend a few days a year locking yourself up and just studying up and learning new things. Whatever you got to do, don't stop learning, right? This keeps you ahead of this curve, and it kind of loops back to the beginning of what we talked about, right? Once you've gotten to where you want to go and you're now ready for that next level, this is where you take your newfound knowledge, find new people, new mentors to level up with, and continue down that path again. So thank you everybody for giving me your most valuable asset, which is your attention and your time. I don't take that for granted. And yeah, I'll pass it over to questions, no matter how specific they are. Let me know what you're thinking.